So we're almost there with our loading screen. We have our game that can start. Click the start button. We're ready to go. Moving around the world. We can stop when we hit this hedge. But when we start again, we're still at the hedge. We're going to need to learn about scenes. And so now I'm going to try to work through the issues of making another scene. So the game manager, when we wrote it, we said, hey, game manager, don't destroy unload. Notice this is happening down here when I play the game and run it. It shows up down here, don't destroy unload. Well, the canvas and the event system are things we also don't want to destroy unload. So let's set those up here. We can't do it on things that are deep in the hierarchy. We can only do things that are root elements. Public game object canvas and public game object events. Okay, let's go wire it up. So we should see two more things over here in our game manager. Our game manager needs the canvas, and our game manager needs the event system. So now we'll be able to go to the script and say don't destroy unload canvas and don't destroy unload events. So let's see what we can do with that. When I run the game now, will they show up down in that extra spot? Good, there they are. The canvas, the event system, the game manager, those are going to persist when we move from scenes. When we load another scene, those will still be there. Okay, so next thing I want to do. This is called sample scene when it loads up. When we're really writing another game, we should be thinking about the scene division as we go instead of starting off just in one basic scene and going from there. Because what I need to do is I'm going to save this scene as another scene. Not under assets, I'm going to go underneath assets into scenes, and let's save it as Groundhog World. Okay, so now I have two scenes down here. Right now they're identical. In the sample scene, which is really my main menu, my start one here, I'm going to reload that. Yes. This one only needs the canvas, event system, and the game manager. All the other things, let's get rid of them. And, well, we're going to need the camera too. So we'll leave the camera around. So let's delete those. So there we go. We now have our main menu. And we're going to run those. And everything left, don't destroy unload, is there. Now it fades away. There is no world there. The other stuff is in this other scene. And here, I don't need the GUI because it's going to be saved by somebody else. Let's delete that. The game manager will be part of whatever comes through. And so we're going to say that really doesn't get loaded again because of how we set it up as a singleton. So to make my programming easier in this scene, I'm going to leave the game manager here so I can talk to it back and forth and wire things up if I need to. But that game manager is only going to be in the other world. And so if I run this scene, I still have my moving around doing stuff. But notice that my signs don't show up, they don't do anything. Notice that my hedge doesn't restart the game or anything. We need to make that connection. So let's go make that connection. In our script, down here when I click on the start button, I was calling the coroutine to color lerp away the background and make the game show up. What I want to do instead is what Unity suggests out here in the documentation when it says, hey, scene manager, I want to do stuff with a scene manager and load a scene. Now they recommend, there's a couple different ways to do it. They recommend doing this one where you do it asynchronously. So I am going to copy this method here into my code, and it'll say, I'm not happy. I don't know what a scene manager is. Well, the scene manager needs a couple more pieces here because we don't do it all the time. We are going to need to use Unity Engine Scene Management. Engine Scene Management. And once I load the scene management part, it is happy with the scene manager. So, scene manager, go load this scene down here, Groundhog World. So I load it by name, whatever name that I gave it down here, Groundhog World is going to be the one that it needs. So, let's see what happens. Instead of making it disappear in the start button, I'm going to take this down here and be the last thing, because what it does here in this load your async scene, while it's loading here, you can do a nice little loading animation. On that website I talked about in the last video, the gamedevbeginner.com, has another great thing about loading scenes. There's pieces of it that I'm seeing that are similar to what I'm doing, and there's a lot more that's happening in there. I recommend browsing that one and seeing what else you can do with loading scenes back and forth and going from scene to scene and going to a menu. There's a lot of coordination that you can do. So what I want to do instead here is to start the coroutine called load your async scene. Now, to make this really abstract, I probably want to call it like scene here. Let's bring in a string, which is what scene am I going to? And then I'm going to say Groundhog World up here. That's going to make it so it's flexible. Anytime I call this function, load your async scene, I tell it what scene to load, and it'll do this operation and put things together. Okay, let's see if it works. Oh, this is the moment of truth. In this video, we go back to the main menu and we start it up. And when I click on start, nothing happens. Something is wrong in my console. It says Groundhog World could not be loaded because it hasn't been added to the build settings yet. Okay. Good. This is where we go out to see the build settings. The build settings currently only has one scene in it, the main menu scene. And it feels a little strange, but we've got to start thinking about the build scenes as we go. And I need to go open up the other scene so that it can be loaded. Build settings. Add open scenes. Groundhog World. Great. They also get numbers, 0, 1. So when you actually run and build your game and turn it into a web game or PC game or Mac or whatever you want, the first one in here is the one that's going to be run. That's going to be my main menu. And so I'm not going to build it now. That takes way too long. But right now, I should be able to go back to the main menu and say, hey, run. And click on start. Let's put the console just in case something else breaks. If I click on start, it fades away. And this is my second world. I'm in Groundhog World now. Let's see what happens. Now if I go back here and hit my end spot, it fades away. The start menu is back. I click on it. It loads the scene and I'm back up here in my little Groundhog home. Welcome to Groundhog City happens. And then I can be over here doing things, running over here, running away. But the start menu runs the menu again. And I'm back where I started. Great. Okay, so that's a super simple way to go between scenes. And it doesn't go back to a main scene. It could, but I'm going back and forth between my Groundhog World and then reloading the Groundhog World and reloading the Groundhog World. There's a lot more complexity and mapping that you should do between your scenes. This is going to get you going. Okay, good video.